A very good morning to you, Trinidad and Tobago, all our viewers and listeners out there. Thanks for joining us here at PSA TV. This is the Wake Up Call segment. I'm Avalon Williams. In studio here with us this morning, she is a national activist and she goes by the name of Kimm Cole-Singh, also known as Crystal Howard. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, my love. How are you?
I'm good.
And good morning to your viewing audience.
Yeah. How are you? How was your journey here with us this morning?
It was very short.
Very
No
short.
traffic.
No traffic. That's good. So Kimm Cole-Singh, could you tell me how you got that sing to the end of it first?
Oh, right. So no, I'm not married. I did not get married. The Kimm Cole, I go by the media personality Kimm Cole. And the sing was a means of protesting policy and the status quo within, my political party. So that's what that
Could you, for those that may not know who's Kimm Cole, could you just brief them, give them a little background of you?
Kimm Cole is a Trinidadian. I'm a patriot. I love my country. I am all things Trinidad, Trinidad and the Tobago, Trinbago. I have represented the interests of the the African community for quite some time. I am heavy on activism. I'm very outspoken. I did some media work. I'm quietly one of the biggest philanthropists there is. Yes, but I don't believe in being public about philanthropy at all.
Okay.
So I keep it very quiet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you were with the UNC at some point, right?
Right. I ran for local government election. I am a member of the UNC. We'll see how that goes nearer to the elections, if I will stay or if I will leave, if this may be my departure from the party. But there are some issues that ought to be, remedied within the UNC.
So when you look at the UNC and the PNM, under the PNM regime, have you seen any sort of changes to the country? Have you seen any improvement? Any sort of...
Have you seen any improvement? I think we go from bad to worse. Yeah.
Really? You want to just go in depth with some of the...
In depth with what exactly? From
some
which aspect?
from, like bad to worse.
I don't see much growth in the economy, in as much as the finance minister would have articulated a position that, we had a minimum amount of growth. The businesses, small businesses, continue to close down. The economy is just in a mess. When you have small businesses, as in the regular man in the street, nail techs, hairdressers, and that kind of thing, and they are complaining about business being slow, that's when you know that your economy isn't doing as well as we would like to think.
Kimm, the crime. I mean, you've seen last week Friday what took place at Sealots with the whole murder of 2 gang leaders, so they say, Dole and also Sandman. When you look at what's happening in the country today, what do you think the Commissioner Gary Griffith, what do you think he needs to do to sort of bring down the high crime level?
Crime is not Gary Griffith's problem. It is the problem of every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. In as much as he is the Commissioner of Police, he is doing what he is supposed to do in his capacity as Commissioner of Police, which is to restructure the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. I see a concerted effort on his part to fix and address many of the issues that the general public would have had as it relates to the integrity and the trust that the citizens of this country would have had or would not have had in police officers. But crime is a social issue. It starts in the home. So we need all hands on deck. Gary, in my estimation, has been doing a very good job, and he will continue to get my support until such time.
I know a lot of persons have been criticizing him, calling him a social media person. He's not focused too much on what's happening in the country, but to me, I don't see that. I mean, he's doing a good job, I will say. He also took his polygraph test.
He's leading by example. Gary has demonstrated that he has credibility, he is for country, and even privately, there are certain initiatives that I would have brought to the fore as it relates with interacting, improving the rapport between the police as well as people who live in hotspots. And this is something that he was one of the first person to support him, as well as the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And so, I mean, for that reason alone, he understands, in my estimation, he understands what needs to be done, and he is doing as best as he's doing what he can do for the time that he has been there. So I'm not going to knock him after one year. You have had, you know, an inept police service for many years, so he cannot be expected to fix the problem overnight. Yeah. Factor into the equation, we all live in communities, we all know what happens, the perpetrators, and all these things, but there is an unwillingness by the people within the communities to do better. In several instances, it's because people are afraid. They are uncomfortable, they're afraid of the bad elements. Then there is what we mentioned initially, the trust factor, you know, between these citizens and the police service. You know, you have rogue police officers, so it is something very ticklish, but he's on the right track, and he will have my support.
Do you think taking the polygraph test will create some sort of change within the police service to weed out the rogue elements?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do.
I want to touch on UNC.
Okay, what do you want to touch on?
I just wanted to, you know, Mrs. Vicessa, she spoke about unity. Have you been seeing any sort of unity in the UNC right now?
How much time do you have?
We have enough. We have enough.
Okay, so initially you asked me after the Kimm Cole-Singh. So I have been going by the media personality Kimm Cole for many years. It is no secret that I am a member of the UNC. The last time I checked with the General Secretary, I am a lifetime member of the UNC. I contested a PNM stronghold for the UNC. I did pretty well in that I amassed just around, you know, about 1,000, 1,100 votes in a PNM stronghold, for the local government election of 2016. The UNC is an Indian-based political organization. I have come from the Black Caucus movement, which is an organization that treats with the empowerment, or at the time treated with the empowerment of African people through business and entrepreneurship. So that said, I did not go to the PNM because in my estimation, I think that the PNM, which has been marketed and branded as the Black African Party, I don't believe that they have done enough for the African community. When you compare what the PNM has done to empower the East Indian community, the Syrian community, the French Creole, etc., it is chalk and cheese. In my estimation, they have done absolutely nothing to empower Afro-Trinidades. I mean, just look at the PNM strongholds, and you'd have a better understanding. So I did not think that the PNM was the place for me to go. Compounded with the fact that I grew up in urban Tunapuna. I would have spent my more formidable years in Tunapuna. I lived merely, you know, about 2 minutes away from Tapia House, which is Mr. Lloyd Best. So I would listen to Mr. Best and members of Tapia House when they would walk around the communities and stuff like that. I think that Lloyd Best was, this is a little deep into politics, I think Lloyd Best was, he was a real visionary, and he understood politics. He saw the PNM for what it was. And at the time, I don't think that people really understand what he was saying. So he was really before his time.
Right.
So coming from a background like that, I chose to not support the PNM because most of the key members within my organization, they were supportive of the PNM. And that organization was not supposed to, they always branded themselves as being apolitical. So then when you have key members on the executive, declaring a political position, I felt as though in order to strike balance, I would go to the UNC, compounded the fact that I don't support the PNM and I never voted for the PNM. So I went in to join the UNC in 2016 because I believed that the UNC or the People's Partnership paid the political price already for the wrongs, the ills that they did 2010 to 2015. So I joined the party when they were in opposition,
right,
because I wanted to be a part of the rebuilding process. I figured that they would have understood or seen the error in their way, and I figured that me being there in the UNC, I could have represented, or I would have been able to represent the interest of African people. Some may say it's a paradox or an oxymoron, yeah? But I also understand the importance of voter leveraging. So, but I think we will get deeper into that, in the next segment. So I did join the UNC. Further to that, what did you ask me?
Just with the UNC though.
Right, unity. So I have been able to see things for what it is, and I call a spade a spade. So I'm a black woman, I'm an African woman. Contrary to what other people articulate or say about me, I know who I am, I understand my ethnic background, etc., etc. So I saw a lot of things happening in the UNC that I was not happy about, and I voiced my opinion accordingly. From 2016, when I campaigned the manner in which the UNC candidates on the East-West corridor were treated, and all of that, it was always a fight from me. And so I would call out the UNC publicly. If you would go through my social media, you will see that.
Yeah, I've seen
so, that. Yeah, no, not just recently. Even in 2017, I would call them out. Then last year, you would have had Kamala Prasad-Bissessar take the ultimate chain up, mount a political platform and call Dr. Keith Rowley an Oreo. Now, I always say this: what is right is right, what is wrong is wrong. What is right is right, what is wrong is wrong. And you cannot say that. You can't say that. There are things that she can say, and there are things that she cannot say, things that she should not say, especially considering the fact that she is not an African person. She's not one of we. So maybe if Kim Cole had said, Rowley, you're an Oreo, maybe it would have slide, And to date, she has not apologized for that Oreo statement. Do you think she can go to America and call Barack Obama an Oreo? Absolutely not.
No.
So that in itself, it was very disrespectful, and it still is. The fact that, you have African leaders in this country who did not come to Dr. Rowley's defense. Now, I am not satisfied, and I have not been satisfied with the governance that we have received, but as I say, what is right is right, what is wrong is wrong. Could you imagine if Dr. Rowley or Camille Robinson Regis mounted a political platform and referred to Kamala as, Kamala with, when she put on, she looked like Tukumar or something like that. They would have seen it for what it was, which is an ethnic slur. So that's where I started to hit and demand that she apologize. She never apologized. You had this skit done by the PNM, whereby a particular party group, they did a skit at the PNM Sports sometime August last year, and the Hindu community found that it was offensive. Dr. Rowley did the honorable thing. In my estimation, he wasn't responsible for it, but he apologized.
Yes.
And I give him full kudos and full credit for that, because he took responsibility for the actions of people. He found that it was offensive. He apologized. Then I would have seen, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, attempting to speak for African people. I had an issue with that. You led a government that abused, used, and exploited the political support of African people, and by extension, the East-West corridor. So anything that comes from your mouth as it relates to you want to see good for African people, I don't want to hear it coming from you, because you had the opportunity. In 2010, the majority, the People's Partnership won 29 seats. So it was a resounding victory. The African community never looked at it as, well, we're going to vote to put the first woman prime minister in this country, Kamala Persad-Bissessel. She's an Indian, you know what? We don't want no Indian here. We're not going to vote and support that. No, the country wanted better. And we were not satisfied with the man in administration, etc. So we voted, we supported her. Despite her ethnic background, she had the opportunity to unite the country, and she didn't see that. Many people say, Kimm, you're attacking Kamala, you're attacking Kamala. When you are in a position of power, when people give you power, and you act in a particular manner, I judge you based on that. So at the time, she was not the prime minister. She wanted the opportunity. You were given the opportunity, and that is what you did with it. So you already show me your cards. Yeah, you have shown the country what you are about. So this is no longer, yeah, she's a woman, and no. You exploited African people. So in January of this year, at the time I was really, going to town on the UNC and all of that because of what I describe as blatant discrimination in the party. She launches the Monday night, she launched the One Corridor movement at the La Hoqueta Talparo electoral district, sorry, the constituency of La Hoqueta Talparo. She launched the One Corridor movement. Was it need to differentiate? UNC is UNC. Where you come with this stupidness, One Corridor movement to do what? To come to fool African people because you want to appeal to us? We understand what it is. We know what it is. It's UNC. This is because you continuously say, I will fight alone. I am fighting alone. I am strong enough. We will fight alone. So it's UNC. So that is where the poppy show started, in my estimation. So I listened to her speech. It was a very good speech. It was a very powerful speech. She spoke about African people not getting land after slavery, and she implored the Indo-Chinese to understand the hardships that African people would have faced. Now, all of that is just talk. As far as I see it, I mean, for me, it's trap talk because you were there. And you had the power to make change because of that majority of seats you had in the parliament, but you didn't do it. So you're not going to come now and try to thief my head and thief the head of, the other African citizens of this country with what you're blabbering. I want what is best for my community, which is Afro-Trinis and the poor and the oppressed and those who are discriminated. But in the same breath, as I say, a healthier functioning ground, a healthier functioning African community leads to a better Trinidad and Tobago. So, she came with all the Mama Gaia and all the launch the One Corridor movement. So I listened to her. I said, okay, I listen. I hear you talking my talk. What you said, you appealed to me. Quite frankly, when she was finished delivering that speech, I was ready to call her, Kamala Parks or Kamala Luther King, because it was that serious of a speech. Then I decided, okay, no problem. I am going to calm myself and ask to meet with her. So I met with her. I said, listen, the United Nations declared this the international decade from 2015 to 2024, the international decade for people of African descent. I have heard absolutely nothing coming from the government. I would like for you to raise this issue. It's a very pertinent issue for me in the parliament. So she said that she was familiar with it. She was familiar with the whole declaration, but she didn't know much about it. So she invited me to write a 2-paragraph for her, and she said, she would do even better for me. She would raise it at the Monday night forum, the next Monday night forum in Tunapuna, which she never did. From that Monday night, from the time I met her, I think she would have gone on to about 8 or 9 Monday night forum, and never this lady mentioned anything about the African empowerment and all of that. So it tells me you are not serious, and if I cannot even rely on you to highlight or outline something as important to the African community that you claim you are about empowering, if we give you a second chance, if I cannot rely on you, I cannot depend on you to honor what you said you would do, your word is worth nothing, your word has no honor.
Why do you think she didn't raise that issue though?
Well, you have to call her and ask her that, because in as much as, you know, she did not highlight it when she said she would. I reminded her, I sent her follow-up emails and that kind of thing, and it was like, you know, nothing. So if you're doing that now and you're not considering the fact that you abuse African people back then, and you're coming back and begging for a second chance, and if you can't even honor your obligation for something so trivial, you didn't even go to raise something as pertinent as that in the parliament. Never mind, this lady was the Minister of Education, and she removed corporal punishment from schools, and that was in line with another international declaration, not United Nations, but I can't remember. So she understands the importance of conforming or appreciating international policies. So what is it? So at that point, you know, my position is that you are not serious, and it's almost as if you come back to fool African people again, and I will not have it. When you look at, and then, you know, they talk about the UNC being a diverse party. The UNC may be diverse, but when it comes to race, it is not a diverse party. Just look at the opposition bench. All the UNC safe seats, East Indians. I can call every single one for you, but we're not going to waste time on that. Just pay attention to it. All the UNC safe seats are given to East Indians. So I am asking, why haven't African people been given UNC safe seats to fight? The credible, the educated, the loyal African members of the UNC. What is the criteria for qualifying for? What is the criteria for qualifying for a UNC safe seat? That is what I want to know. I have an issue with the current status quo. Are they satisfied with the current status quo in the UNC? How do they feel about putting credible African people to contest UNC safe seat? Now, don't tell me about Jack Warner. That was a one-off, right? And I also want to know if they think African people are treated fairly in the UNC. This is the middle of the United Nations Declaration for Afro-Chinese. I mean, for people of African descent. So it is something that I have just started. I have been speaking about it, I think, actively 2 to 3 months. I think I will start putting my pen to paper and writing to the General Secretary, writing to all the respective bodies, and I would take my my tour. I would go to the media now. I would go to the media with it, because they have no room for that in Trinidad and Tobago. How could you say that you want unity when East Indians, and I'm not saying all, but it gives the impression that all East Indian people in these constituencies, they don't want an African person to represent them.
When you listen to, sorry Kim, when you listen to Senior Counsel Israel Khan, when he says too many Africans in the police service.
And he's saying too many Africans are in the police service, and I am saying too many Africans are being denied opportunities in the UNC. And this is another thing. Why is this man getting so much of media play? For what? Something that passed and gone already. They had an issue. This is what I'm saying. It's almost as if it's everything these people want. They want to control all of the sectors of society. They have an issue with the Chief Justice. What has the Chief Justice done? What? They bring these frivolous allegations. Did you pay attention to the recommendations that the Chief Justice has made as it relates to improving the judiciary? You're coming to tell me about his sexuality. Really? In 2019? When you just had Jason Jones and they fighting for equal rights at the High Court? And you say your party is a diverse party, so I know that there are people of different sexual orientations in the UNC, right? So what is it? What has the Chief Justice done? I think I read somewhere they said this Cambridge Analytica thing, and I have my own personal thoughts on it, but one of the things that stood out to me, I think, was within the email gate, the bugging of the DPP's office. The DPP, another Afro-Trini Roger Gaspard. So they have an issue with the DPP. They have an issue with the Chief Justice. They wanted, I think it was Inspector Dulal Chan, an East Indian gentleman. He was their pick for the Commissioner of Police. So what is it? And the thing about it is, they're not even hiding. They're out and open and blatant and brazen with it. And my position is, if the UNC does not change the status quo, I think that, that there is no room in this country for that kind of party. No. It is too blatant. Considering the fact you took all the state's resources, and can you name for me one Afro-Trini or one non-East Indian one non-East Indian who received over $20 million worth of government contracts? Can you?
No.
I can't either. So I'm not going to accept any, submission by any one of the UNC that Kimm, you're pushing race and this is race and politics. It goes hand in hand. Race relations and politics. The difference with Afro-Trinis as compared to Indo-Trinis, that Indian Trinis, when they get into government or when they are about politics, they push an agenda to empower their race. Afro-Trinis are a bit more individualistic. So they are about self. I is Kimm Cole. I is the acting, it's all about me, and I'm speaking broken because, but I am Kimm Cole. I am Jack Warner. I am Gypsy. I am this one. It's not about what we are doing as African people when it comes to politics.
Well said, Kimm, I must say. I'm just looking at you have some comments here I'm seeing coming in, but I don't think I'll read it this morning. I think we're going to just toss to break to news right now, and we're going to come back to the program. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome back to PSA TV. This is the Wake Up Call segment. In studio here with us is Miss Kimm Cole. So, Kimm, we had just ended off there with where you were talking about the Mrs. Bisasa. So, you want us to just touch back on the crime gangs, in the government contracts that, it's been circulating all over, where they have issues with government contracts for gang members.
Both the PNM and the UNC are guilty of distributing contracts and empowering before they were community leaders, right? So let's go a little back, let's do a little history, right? So I'm not going prior to 1986.
Okay.
Because I was born in 86.
Okay, me too.
Right. So you would have had Mark Guerra. And what I'm saying to you, I'm just reminding the public and refreshing people's memory, because this is public knowledge. This has been, in the media for time, but people forget. You had Mark Guerra. Mark Guerra was a Muslim dude, deported from the US, and he was empowered by the PNM administration. He played a key role in URP and ghost gangs and corruption, all these things. And the thing is, I don't think that these people, these community leaders, they recognize, I don't think that they know or they even realize that they have been used and they have been exploited by self-serving politicians who have used them and their power or their muscle, the bullying, to gather votes for on both sides. So you had the PNM's Mark Guerra. Then you had the UNC answer back with Sean Bill Francis, right? And, he was in charge of certain things and the URP and them kind of things. We didn't have CPEP yet. You had URP and you had HDC, NHA and all these things. And then you would have had, coming forward, when the both of them were killed, you had the Fresh. Remember, Fresh had gotten the contract to refurbish and to paint down Shafford and all these places, and P&M, right? And then you see from that point coming forward, so when the Commissioner of Police talks about 15 years ago, and the Prime Minister says 15 years, for 15 years this has been happening for more than 15 years. So what they have done is use the black youths, empower them, give them the power through the contracts, government contracts. And these youths, their behavior, the behaviors that they exhibited, it was acceptable to the politician at the time because they were using bullying and ranking thing, bad man tactics to get votes. And then you see that the behavior, it was learned by others, and now it is out of control. This one want to point the finger and that one want to point the finger, but both the PNM and UNC, they have one side. I would think I would say the PNM created it and the UNC continued it. And moving forward, now you see all these other community leaders who got $40,000 here and who got $100,000 there and all of that, but it pales in comparison to what, between 2010 and 2015. You cannot compare $40,000 and a $200,000 contract to millions and billions of dollars. And this is something that I want the community leaders to pay attention to and recognize, understand. You all are fighting and killing one another. I think we reached 3-something now. For box drain, CPEP, URP. And you have one East Indian walking away with $1 billion in contract. He distributed it to 100 or 500 of his partners and them. No East Indians are getting killed for that. But we fighting over life sport. We fighting over box drain. We fighting over CPEP, Ghost Gang, URP, HDC, renovation and refurbishment projects. No, stop allowing the politicians to use and misuse and mislead you. Because now you're hearing from both sides that they're condemning them, right? But this is something that only created, only aided, abetted, and facilitated for years or for decades. And this is why this is a direct. We are reaping the rewards of what was sown 20, 30 years ago. I wouldn't even say 15 years ago. Because Margaret had been around, let me say, 90s, right? Yeah. And prior to Margaret, I had others that I choose to not mention.
Right. Kimm, do you think the business people contribute to providing any sort of help to the unemployed and the dispossessed?
Of course. I think it would be disingenuous of me to say no. As a business person, and I'm not speaking for me, but I'm speaking for them. They do what they can do. I see a lot of company, a lot of the business community, they hire staff. They do what they have to do. It's not everything good to talk on TV, you know. So the business community, they are doing enough. If you would ask me if they can do a bit more, yeah, I would like for them to do a bit more. But they are doing what they can do under this, factor into the equation our current circumstances here.
I just want to pull back a bit with UNC. Do you think Mrs. Visesa will have a next chance there?
The only time I think people would even consider or entertain a thought to put that lady back in government as if she does what I say, which is to put Africa. Show that you change. Show that the brand of politics has changed from 2010 to 2019. Currently, it has not changed. Look today, they have some pavement report and all of that. You think that this is the eve of Emancipation Day? You think the day before Indian Arrival Day, they would have hosted any kind of citizens report or any seminar or any group where they're discussing issues? You think they would do that the day before Indian Arrival Day? You think they would have done that the day before Diwali? But it's a grave disrespect. They're very disrespectful and nobody has called them out on it. Further to that, recently, the UNC would have embarked upon not internal election, but the constituency executive elections. Listen to me, 99.9% of the positions of power in these constituency executive elections, it was contested by East Indians, and the slates, certain slates were approved prior to, by the leader, and you have the majority of the positions of power in the UNC from the constituency. So let's just talk about Tunapuna, for instance. You would have the chairman of the Tunapuna constituency executive, an East Indian, the vice chairman, East Indian, the secretary, maybe a little mixed race, Douglas boy, the assistant secretary, an African, the treasurer, an East Indian. Everything going down the line is Indian, 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 Indian. And you cannot say that you cannot boast that your party is diverse when it is not. And she has not done enough to change the politics or the policies of the party to show that the UNC is inclusive. That is what I have seen. And you have members, African members of the UNC who just, it's almost like it's understood. This is the Indian party, so we will just come in here and see what we, see what best we could do within the parameters that we are allowed to do, as opposed to challenging the status quo. You get me? So I have an issue with that. You're wasting time. Why would I want to join a political party? Why would I want to be an active part of a political party? You're coming and telling me, work hard and I will reward you. This is Kamala again, right? Every time I talk about this lady, is woke me up, I just get angry, because it's, she vexing my spirit lately. Come in the party, work hard and I will report you. How? Who have you rewarded? Sorry, work hard, come in the party and I will reward you. Which African Trinidadian, Afro-Trinbagonian that has been a part of the UNC, she has rewarded. But Barry Padrat have a safe seat fighting, right? Where Clifton Decoto safe seat? You have Clifton Decoto who has a solid background in education. He was looked over, and they put Tim Gopi-Singh as the Minister of Education. Tim Gopi-Singh is a doctor, right? But Fuad Khan was also a doctor, so you couldn't put the both of them in health. So all the big money ministries, I would say, the majority of the big money ministries were given to East Indians, and the ministries that African people got, there is something called the deliverables. It was removed. And that is why she has found herself in that position today. It was blatant. And I thought that they learned a lesson, they passed the buck, they said, it wasn't the UNC's doing, it was the COP, and they're no longer having the partnership, so they're going straight UNC. But it is the same thing, or maybe it's even worse, and people need to be mindful of the fact that there is no buffer. This is a straight UNC party, and you have to be mindful of that.
Kimm, I'm listening to you talking and stuff like, would you say, because someone said that we're divided by race?
We are.
Yeah.
Only when it comes to how we vote is not how we party. Carnival time, we're going to see everybody jamming and whining and thinging, but that may be it's an illusion of inclusion. Because when it comes to spending, we are segregated. Every other ethnic group in this country are segregated when it comes to spending and business. The East Indians support East Indian businesses. The Chinese, they support Chinese businesses. I saw a Chinese man in Subway once, and it was like, oh my gosh, they actually buy outside of their group. The Syrian community, they support their Syrian businesses. And nothing is wrong with, being charitable to self first. They say charity begins at home. So they are doing what they need to do to maintain their money, to keep the money circulating in their community. But African people, when it comes to the way we spend, we are not conscious in that regard. Okay, tomorrow is Emancipation Day. Why would I go to a Syrian store to buy indigenous wear? That don't make sense to me. I think me spending my money within the African community is black enough and is African enough for me. I am focused on what many other people have not been focused on, which is our money. We have to understand our consumer power and make it work for us, because all of the other groups, they have made it work for themselves. And we are seeing the benefits as it relates to these groups. But it is only in our community. The money is hemorrhaged from our community, and when it leaves our hands, the minute we get paid, where we just go? KFC. Where we just go?
In the mall.
Where we just go? The mall. 40, 50, 120% markup on products, right? Where we spend, we go and buy doubles, we go and this. How many East Indians you see buying kalaloo and crab and dumpling and stuff like that? Hardly.
When you hear the term 1%, what comes to your mind? How?
The 1% is not a race, the 1% is a class, right? That refers to the 19,500 people who control the business, So, I think there was a slip of the tongue when, the gentleman, the Syrian guy, he said, we are the 1%. I'm not, the 5,000, he was directly referring to the Syrian group, but the 1%, in my understanding, it refers to a class and not a race. And then you have, of course, the balance.
Yeah.
Right?
The Prime Minister made a statement about African people. Have you came across that?
Yeah, I came across it. He said African people are not where we are to be, and all of that. He made reference to a project that was meant to benefit the African community directly, and it was shut down by the opposition back in 2003, 2004. And I am saying, if you know all of that, and you saw what they did between 2010 and 2015, Dr. Rowley, do what is right. You have to level the playing field. You must level the playing field. Give African people big money contracts. And it's not just, I am not telling Dr. Rowley to do it unscrupulously and just say, hey, look at contract, hey, look at contract. You're telling me in 600,000 plus African people, we make up 43% of the population, right? The last official census, that's the results, right? That is the population of the African community. You telling me we can't get 20 black, legitimate, capable businesses out of 600,000 people? Nah, man, something had to be wrong. So, Dr. Rowley, if you're looking on, please level the playing field. You must give, you have to be fair to African people. Must. Because we are at the bottom of the economic ladder. And now you have an influx of engineers. People say African people don't want nothing, African people lazy, and African people this. We are not being given the same opportunities. I remember Dr. Rowley, when he now came into office, he says he's the blackest man in the country, and well, show your blackness and empower African people. Yeah. You went on to say, time to wean yourself off the government. Why you don't tell Amalgamated to wean themselves off the government? Look how much years these people making money. They're sucking the nation totals. Why you don't tell Leng to wean themselves off of the nation totals? Why you don't tell these people? The PNM has, I always say, the PNM has empowered East Indians more than they have empowered African people. They have the Kusas, the Munans, the Siri Rams, All these people, they got their quarry in, I'm not saying that they didn't have the prerequisites to start, you know. They had a start, but they got the government contracts, the junior Sammies and all these things. If they did not receive government contracts, do you think they would have been where they are today? I'm asking a question.
No.
There you go. So there must be at least 5 contractors that you can empower. And you see, when you empower these people, they should have a duty to do for our communities, hire us, subcontract to us, just the way the East Indians did it. They did it blatantly. They didn't care. And I'm not saying it's a tit for tat. I'm saying that given where we are, in society, you need to do what you need to do. Nobody can be vexed with you for that. And if they want to be vexed with you for that, then, you know, they just condemning themselves even further.
That's true. You know, you just mentioned about Trinis being lazy and stuff like that, statements that was made. Sat Maraj also made that same statement.
Well, in all fairness to Sat, and there's a paradox, right? In all fairness to Sat. I think when I read the article, he basically repeated what was uttered by a PNM MP
That is what he
in
said.
Tobago. That's what he said. And somewhere along the lines where I did the fact checking, I think there is merit to that. But Sat is Sat. Sat only became powerful because they didn't have any African people to put Sat in the place, you know. And this is where we go back to the lack of leadership when it comes to African people in our communities. Where's our organization? We have a Lebanese community, the Syrian Lebanese Association. They represent the interest of the Syrian Lebanese people. You have the Chinese Association. You have the Gopio. They represent the Indian people. Where African people representation? Kafra Kambon and the Emancipation Support Committee. Now I believe in being respectful to the elders, but I also believe people ought to be held accountable. What has the Emancipation Support Committee done to empower African people for the 27 years? I think this year they're going to be 27 years, since they have been there for 27 years. You telling me that we have been seeing Indian expos all over the place? Everywhere you go is an Indian expo, and they're always promising to close down. And you telling me the Emancipation Support Committee, they have the, you know, in order to get certain subvention and stuff like that, you must be established. They have been established and recognized. You telling me 27 years later, we don't have an African Expo throughout 365 days for the year? And believe it or not, this is how East Indian people were able to push their culture even more by making their clothing more affordable. So everybody could go to the Nagar, or they had one in Macoya, and you could get to dress up and pay respects to the community. You pay $200 or $150 within the African community. I think we have had, the prices dropped significantly, but before you had certain 1 or 2 business people who would have, brought in the clothing, but it was not easily affordable to all. So, Kafra Kambon, what have you been doing for the 27 years as it relates to representing the interests of African people? Nothing, in my opinion.
We're just going to stick a pin right there, Kim, and just take a break and come right back to the program. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome back to PSA TV. This is the Wake Up Call segment. I'm Avalon Williams, and in studio here with me she is a media activist, Kimm Cole. So, Kim, we had just ended off there with the whole UNC again. What kind of role you think someone can play with respect to providing meaningful changes within the country?
What kind of role someone can play?
With respect to providing meaningful changes within the country?
Change starts with self. Huh?
Yeah.
So if you're talking about an individual, you have to, recognize the problem and make a concerted effort to do what is necessary to fix the problem.
I know you have history with the UNC and stuff like that. Say, for instance, Mrs. Bisasa is to call you to get this, talk out that you draft for her 2 paragraphs. How would you respond to her? Would you take up that offer and entertain her?
Sorry, what?
Mrs. Bisasa.
Beg your pardon?
Would you, say that she happens to call you? Just to engage in conversation and stuff. How would you respond?
What do you want to call me to ask me? What is it you want to call me to tell me? You want to call me to lie to me again? That would be my response to you. Because you got an opportunity in 2010, you made a mess of it, right? And I don't really jam her because she's a woman, and I am, all for women empowerment and that kind of thing. So I don't really go to town on her the way I probably should. But the only thing she could call me to say is, Kimm, we agree, and we're going to divide the UNC safe seats equally. That's all. That's the only thing I could possibly want to hear. And from the UNC safe seats equally, then we could discuss ministerial appointments and state board appointments and all of that, and distribution of contracts. That's the only thing I want to hear at this point.
Some people have said the PNM haven't done anything since they're in office. They haven't done anything for communities and stuff. How would you respond to statements like that, though?
Has the PNM done anything since they have been? I haven't seen any. I haven't seen the PNM do anything. Quite frankly, I don't know if the PNM has a PR issue, but there is nothing to see. What I can tell you is the fact that small businesses cannot get US. A lot of small businesses has closed down. The cost of living has gone up. People the dollar not stretching the way it would have stretched some time ago. You can understand that the revenue level has diminished significantly, but manage. And if you're doing something, let us see what you're doing. But so far, I am not seeing anything. All I see is PNM continuing to sell pipeline dreams. In 2016, when I campaigned for local government elections, you know what the topic for discussion was? Local government reform. Oh gosh, we're in 2019. Just a couple months before local government again, and still no conversation. Well, they know last Friday, I think, within the last few days, there was a joint select committee discussing local government reform. Really? So it takes 3 years to do something that you promised since 2016, and how much money you needed to do that? So no, I don't agree that the PNM has done. For a party as experienced as the PNM, we have to remember, this is not a new party that now trying to get their foot wet, The PNM has been there for 56 years, so they're supposed to have it down pat. In fact, Dr. Keith Rowley is the longest serving politician we have in the country currently. So he has a wealth, I would like to think he has a wealth of knowledge, information, expertise to run the country and to manage things accordingly. So we feel in the pinch, but you can't say 4 years later and you're now talking a certain kind of type way. No. I think he suffered the people too long. I think so. So the people in the country, generally, we're not happy with the PNM, but we're afraid to put back the UNC.
Yeah.
I am all afraid, and I have a yellow shirt. I have 2 yellow shirts in my closet. I'm afraid. And that's as real as it gets.
Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad, though.
Yeah, because they were not fair, and it was so blatant, but...
Well, Mr. Duke, he's going into politics as well, too. He's stepping down with the whole trade union and stuff like that.
Right.
What advice would you give to him, see that you're heavily involved in politics? I know he is, the same as well.
To the best of my knowledge, information, and belief, he is only working in Tobago. I think that the THA I think it's time we see change in the THA. I think Tobago has been ready for change. You can't tell me that you have the PNM managing 50,000 people, 60,000 people maximum with a budget, an annual budget of around $2.8 billion to $3.2 billion, and they can't get it right? No, man. So Mr. Duke will have my full support in that regard. All I am saying is the PNM has had too many opportunities to get it right, and they continuously drop the ball. They are too experienced a political party. They are the most senior political party. They are the strongest political party that, I mean, in this country's history. They have served consecutive terms. So they have no excuse. You can't say this organization has been around for what, 56 plus years, and they can't get it right now? So when they're going to get it right? When we reach the Venezuela status? No. And I think that we need a strong opposition. So Mr. Duke, he will have my full support in the context of Tobago and leadership, yes. But when it comes to, the Trinidad and Tobago politics, I still wear a UNC shirt for all intents and purposes. And so I wouldn't just freely say if the Watson Duke party, the PDP, decided to come to Trinidad, that I would just say, yeah, you know what, yes, I support the PDP. I support people. You have good people in the PNM, you have good people in the UNC. You have good people in COP, you have good people in PDP. Give the good people an opportunity. I think 1 year before a general election, people afraid to split the vote by chance in a third party. So in my estimation, a straight fight between PNM and UNC in Trinidad. When it comes to Tobago, that is something totally different. I do not see the small parties. I do not even see an amalgamation of small parties being able to make significant change. I do not see independent candidates making significant change currently in 2020 because people are afraid to put the UNC, but we know that PNM is not the best thing right now. That said, I would vote for candidate. So for instance, the PNM, and this is what I am, this is how I am. I am not into this clannish politics and as a UNC, so I have to support the UNC. If the UNC councillor for a certain area, acting the fool, I let you know you're acting the fool because you are put there to do a job. You are not a volunteer. Monthly, a councillor just get X amount of money plus certain allowances and all that, work for your money. Likewise, an MP, etc., etc. So, my brand of politics is, yes, Hilan Morin, he is the deputy mayor for the Port of Spain City Corporation. He works hard, he works industriously, he's honest. No bubble, no racket, he will get my support. If the UNC is in disagreement with my position, they could kick rocks. You get me? Because I want to live in a good country. I want the institutions to function. I want capable people to be put in positions and to take up jobs that they are able to execute, fairly, with precision, and they work industriously. That's what I want to say. I want to see a progressive nation. I'm not into this, I got PNM, and I got UNC, and I got PNM like that. No, I'm not into that. I'm not.
Kim, we're just going to stick a pin to it, and we're going to come back and continue the conversation here with Kim Cole and just toss to news right now. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome back to PSA TV. I'm Avalon Williams, and this is Kim Cole, who's been in studio with us this morning. Kim, I just wanted to I'm coming to ask you the question. I mean, persons have said that you were considered before for the Tunapuna constituency area. Why didn't you take up the offer and, have some cake too?
Well, I cannot confirm nor deny that whole Tunapuna talks. I have been offered many things
Mm-hmm.
from not from various parties, but it's not about Kim Cole or Crystal Howard. It is about, my cause. My cause is not an individual. It's not about me. It is about people. I do not think that me alone going into the parliament can make that change. I think that it has to be a we. It cannot be a me. So, in the past, you would have had many people who eat their biscuit and shut them out.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps maybe that is the position articulated by people on the outside. But why should you just take what you're getting and shh, like everybody else? But it's not that. It will not sit right with me. I would feel as if I have sold out.
Mm-hmm.
So, which comes back to what you asked me last session, if the UNC were to call me. You're not calling Kim Cole to offer Kim Cole a safe seat. I want to hear Kim and who? Me and who? This is not about me alone, because all of us are affected by the issues. Race is one of the biggest issues in this country, but for some reason it is taboo and we feel a certain type of way. We don't want to rock the boat, we don't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is only when it is ventilated that we can see the problem and work on potential solutions. If somebody got knocked down outside, they're not going to say, as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, when they have to identify the body, what are they going to say? You work in media. They will give a description based on your ethnic background. Mm-hmm. They will say a male of African descent, 6 feet, weighing 130 pounds or whatever, or 150 pounds, whatever. So race is something that is used to identify people. And so it should be on the front burner when it comes to the issues. When you follow social media and you see black youths being murdered, being killed, not all black youths who get killed are bad and are directly involved in crime. Not all black youths who are held in possession of a firearm have it for all the wrong reasons, or because they wanted to commit a crime. Many of these youths, they are afraid, and that is for their own personal safety. Now, I am not going to encourage anybody to break the law by being in possession of an illegal firearm, but this is what, in some instances, is the case. Mm-hmm. When you have black youths being killed, I see the commentators, yes, one less person off the street, and a next one, and a next person, and this kind of thing. So it is okay to chastise us and broad brush us as a community for the wrongdoings of a handful. Mm-hmm. Because listen, if you have, the Attorney General gave some ridiculous figures, some 1,900 gang members. How you know it's 1,900 gang members? When you get into a gang where you carry your ID and 2 references and a utility bill, where did he get this data and this information from? There are at least 25 to 30,000 black youths who are directly involved in nefarious activities. But when you compare 30,000, we just round it off, or even 40,000 to a population of 600,000 or 700,000 African people, then that is not even 1 or 10% of the population. So why paint us all to be bad? Why is it that the sins of a few reflect the wider African community? Why is it that some lazy African people are used to represent the entire African community? We work hard. We built this country. our grandparents and, great-grandparents, they work hard and they built this country. So how dare these people? And then when you speak up, they say you're being racist. Israel Khan is doing the opposite of what I am doing.
Mm-hmm.
He is speaking, I would not say that he is speaking against African people, but what he is saying and what he has said is that there are many Afro-Trinis or Africans in the police service. Now, in order, and this is a policy decision from way back when, you needed to be of a certain build and height and whatever to be a member of the TTPS. I think it was Basdeo Pandey. When he became Prime Minister, he changed that policy. So then you would have had more East Indians getting the opportunity to be considered for the police service, etc., etc., yeah? But getting back to the real rudiment of the conversation, if you want to say Kim Cole is racist or she's only talking race, 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 I challenge you to go St. Anne's and petition the Chinese Association and come out with your placards and say, this is Trinidad and Tobago. It's not supposed to have no Chinese association. You get where I'm coming from?
Mm-hmm.
They are not doing that. Go to the Syrian-Lebanese Association and say, I find all you're not about country, shut down the Lebanese Association, the Syrian-Lebanese Association, and so on and so forth. But we do not have, I do not think African people have had real representation when it comes to an organization. We have had no voice. Do you remember in, I think it was 2014 or 2015, I can't remember, when Fuad Khan made a statement much to the chagrin of the Chinese community as it relates to the dog. They came out and demanded an apology from Dr. Fuad Khan. Mm-hmm. And he was forced to apologize for saying something like the cooking dog in the Chinese restaurants and all of that. So when you have, coming back to African people have no voice, when you have a prime minister in waiting, could refer to, it is bigger than the prime minister being an Oreo. It tells me that they are not as clued on as they should be when it comes to what is offensive and what isn't. An Oreo is an ethnic slur that is used to refer to an African person who has adopted white qualities. And we as the African group say, you get rich and switch, you sell out. Oreo. And a question I have to go deep with this. So we are saying, so all the black youths who choose to go to school and get an education, are they Oreos in their ghettos? That's the message you want to send? That's the irresponsible statements that you want to make as an opposition leader? So anytime you have an African person who is aspiring to do good, to do the right thing, mm-hmm. to be different from what is put in the media, because the media plays its role when it comes to how they paint the African community. Mm-hmm. Is it that you're saying any black person or black youths who want to who choose to not sell drugs and get an education and live and be an upstanding citizen of this country, they are Oreos? What kind of behavior you think you will encourage from the same people who live in the ghettos who may not have the same opportunity as that other black person?
Kim, some have argued the fact that they said you have disrespected the opposition leader. Would you say you have?
Argue the fact. What is, mm-hmm. is that a fact? Did I disrespect the opposition leader? She has disrespected the East-West Corridor and African people. How about that? By her actions. I merely responded to what she said. She said she wants unity. I am saying if you want unity, put African people, listen, I'm not talking about no pseudo-African person, you know, or no black aristocrat or anybody who wants to be a part of the black aristocracy or black bourgeoisie. I'm talking about those black people, and I'm talking about genuine African people who will go in there and represent the interest of African people. Put credible African people in UNC safe seats. And then we will see that, yes, the party dynamic has changed, because your party has always been an Indo-based party, an Indian-based party. You're calling for unity. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, if you want unity, unclench your fist so that we may shake your hand. And until such time, I am not going to pay any mind to this farce of a call for unity. That is what I am saying. And if she thinks that I am being disrespectful to her, and yes, I call her mustard mother and all kind of thing, yes, of course, it's politics, it's pecan, but mustard was the snake that bit back the right. Yeah, that's what you did. You bit the hand that fed the African people, gave you power. The fact that you have to go on a platform and make a call for African people, to say, African people, join my party, be a part of my party, and find yourself in leadership positions. And I'm not quoting her on that, but you know, find yourself in leadership position while I am here. Hold up. Why does it have to be while you are there? So is it that if you are not there, the opportunity will not be presented to us? But we ain't talking about that, right? Find yourself in leadership position, but all the position of power and leadership is held by East Indians. The East Indians automatically have a direct advantage. So I am saying, I wouldn't like to think that I was disrespectful to the opposition leader. I say what I say. I am in control of what I say, not what you interpret, but by your actions. You take all the money, all the big money contract, and you send it on Central and South, and you stab the East-West Corridor. That was a direct disrespect to the East-West Corridor as well as the African community. By your actions. I still talking. You show, you did. You can't take that back. The most you could do is try to make some sort of amends for your wrongdoing.
I'm just seeing one person is saying to bring back the live sport program and call life skills sports.
Okay. So live sport, it was a good initiative. It was poorly managed. That's what the live sport is. And in my opinion, that's what it is. But then again, you see, they're not understanding African youths and black youths. You know, they want to push up footballers and things. We are worth more than kicking an inflated piece of leather. Sport is good, yes, but pay attention to the borderline. This is another flawed policy that they are coming with. The head of the UTAM, they were talking about an inter-community football and cricket initiative. They're not paying attention to what is happening on the ground with the borderline with Rasta City and the Muslim and the warring gangs. Uptown can go downtown. Downtown Street can go over to Nelson Street, and Mango Rose can come down the road. That's just in town. People from Tunapuna can go Marcus St. Joseph. When you put on an inter-community sporting initiative, what you're doing? You're putting up black youths then. You're setting them up. I'm asking a question. But here it is, we can consider entertainment. Entertainment can be the new oil. Put policy in place to push 50% local content on the radio. Do you know how many young people have talent and they are not getting the airplay on the radio? So, to highlight or to showcase their craft. Can we consider that? Can we? That's just the radio pushing that 50% local content in Barbados. I think they already have 50% local content, and they're pushing for, I think it's 100% local content now. I mean, in Barbados. In Jamaica, you don't hear soca music playing 24/7, 365 days a year, but it's almost as if soca is only between December the 26th, and an Ash Wednesday. Let it be 360. We have youths who sing rap. We have youths who sing R&B. We have people in this country who sing all genres of music, but it is being overshadowed by the big pop artists and the international acts. And that's why I say, let us discuss 50% local content on the radio. How about we start there?
Kim, what are some things you'd like to see in Tunapuna?
Tunapuna. I know we don't have much more time, but Tunapuna has limitless potential. I think the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation, it has outlived its usefulness, meaning its services, I think the last number I had is over 250,000 burgesses.
Okay.
So I think that the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation should become a city, like a borough, like a Rima. And so that we can govern our own affairs. We wouldn't have to go direct. We wouldn't have to go to local government for budgets and that kind of thing.
Right.
I would like to see more business activity in Tunapuna, particularly within the underground. But in order for these things to happen, you need to scale back on crime. First race can't go over bamboo.
Would you say because of the crime, business people do not wish to put their businesses in Tunapuna area? Some of them are just holding back?
That would be, of course. Why would I set up a business in Tunapuna when I could go to Twin City Mall? Why would I set up a business on Project Street when I could go to West Mall or Long Circular Mall? So crime has direct setbacks when it comes to business. And then when you go to the mall and shop, remember you have to pay markup because these the owners, whereby you could pay, it's less money to rent a spot outside of a mall. So automatically the final price for your product, it may double or triple because the business owner now has more rent to pay, right? So those are, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things, but crime is the #1 issue right now. And instead, on black youths, come on, let us be practical. The government spends, I've seen $12 billion budgets, I've seen $7 billion budgets on national security. Take it down, hold it down. Why are we spending money to on the back end when we could have more money pumped into programs to empower us, as opposed to putting us in a jail, as opposed to transporting us up and down? It's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that is being hemorrhaged. Any good leader will recognize that the human resource of their country is the most vital resources in their country. And that is what I want to see, more focus on the citizens, the human resources of our country.
I think that was well said there. You just had me in a zone at one moment. I just want to pull back a little bit about the 7 fishermen that went missing. It was all over the papers and stuff like that, and they also raised an issue. Mr. Gariabu, he raised an issue where he tried to reach out to the Coast Guard, and he was told that there was no fuel for them to patrol the waters.
Right. Well, they probably use the fuel to patrol the waters to deal with the Venezuelan issue.
And your take on the influx of Venezuelans in our country?
They were economic migrants. That is something that happens all over the world.
Right.
And so, as a humanitarian, I could feel for people, but I also feel for people in my country as well. So time will tell. When it comes to, we would be able to gauge whether or not this was a good decision or it wasn't a good decision in time to come.
Kimm, I want to thank you so much for coming here this morning. And I'm going to welcome you back again. And today I just want you to leave your statement for citizens this morning. Your closing comment for
My
them.
closing comments. Thank you so much for, giving me the time this morning. Ultimately, a healthier functioning ground, healthier functioning black community leads to a better Trinidad and Tobago. So I am for country. This is all about, this is for what is best for Trinidad and Tobago. It may seem as though she's just for black people, but I have recognized and accepted where we have erred as a community. I have accepted the wrongs of our community, and we have to focus on the problem in order to enjoy a better Trinidad and Tobago. So it's all about country.
Thank you so much, Kimm. So we have come to the end of the program. I want to thank Ms. Kimm Cole for joining us here this morning. She's a national media activist. So we're going to toss to a break. And I think we have come to the end of the program for today, Kimm.
Right.
Yeah, we have, because the messages that are coming in, I think persons would like you to stay, but just because of time.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in with us here at PSA this morning, and you can catch us back on Friday, please, God.